Okay, we're going to continue to monitor this very lengthy hearing as it seems to be winding down. Welcome to Inside Politics. You have been watching a highly contentious hearing with major implications for nothing short of public health in the United States of America. For nearly 3 hours, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. didn't just field questions from senators, he lobbed insults, which many of them gave right back. Now, there are going to be lots of clips that you're going to see online, lots of viral moments, but here's what's important to keep in mind. This was not just a run-of-the-mill political food fight. This is senators from both parties, Democrats and many Republicans, trying to get basic answers from the Secretary of Health and Human Services about significant changes to the CDC, radical changes to vaccine policy.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get to it, but how many of those senators have taken massive amounts of money from Big Pharma? Right, that's going to be the bullet point. That's going to be the thread that you have to keep in your mind throughout this entire absolute. I mean, this was disgusting. I mean, if you sat through the 3 hours, it was rough. I'm like halfway through it right now, but if you sat through the entire 3 hours that was this hearing or whatever the hell they call it, I mean, he was lobbing that. I think when Warren was talking to him and saying, "Oh, you took so many hundreds of thousands of dollars from Big Pharma and stuff like that," that's not going to be what's clipped. That's not going to be what CNN is going to clip. That's not going to be what anyone's going to clip. That's on the left media. They're just going to clip that. Oh, we can't get vaccines and vaccines save children, and you hate children. Right? That's going to be the bullet point. That's going to be the bottom line. That's going to be the common thread throughout all of this nonsense, all of this bullshit, all of this grandstanding that they're doing to try to get these news agencies to play their clip, right? To see them shine. That's what they're getting to. That's what they're getting at. They want to be seen, regardless of what the actual substance of the argument is. And it's pretty disgusting. I mean, let's see what they play here, and we can talk about it, analyze it, see what we think.
Just a bit.
Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is, everyone who wants it, that was your promise.
I know I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products for which there is no indication.
When you said,
and I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator. You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
I'm asking the questions,
I
Mr.
asked you a
Kennedy.
question.
I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership.
You did it behind closed doors.
No, the data is all public.
Now parents who decide that they do want their children to have
You're just
COVID
making
vaccine.
stuff up, Senator.
I'm not
You're
making
just
stuff
making stuff up.
Sometimes when you make an accusation, it's kind of a confession, Mr. Kennedy.
You choose to know answers to questions with some colleagues.
I'm willing to give you the answer. I'm willing to give you the answer.
Secretary, someone should have asked you, maybe President Trump should have asked you, are you a trustworthy person? And we should have waited for an answer then. Let's move on.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Shit is that? Like, what bullshit is that? How do people vote for any of these people? How are any of these people taken seriously? How does somebody, how do you not see through that absolute horse shit of a person? I don't know who that is. I don't care who that is. Right? I'm just a person talking. I'm just a guy talking. And that's kind of like why people like Trump, because in the end, he's going to say some stupid shit. He's going to have some mistakes. He's going to say whatever. But he's probably saying what he's thinking for the most part, right? Like that is such a little, little box of a answer. Like everything is thought through. Everything is curated. Everything is, it's just gross, man. It's just fucking disgusting.
Talking about you're talking gibberish.
Well, let's bring in the one and only CNN chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Let's bring in the one and only guy who lied throughout the entire COVID-19 issue, right? I mean, if you guys seen the Joe Rogan interview, right, where Rogan was basically pressing him the entire way, if you haven't, you have to watch it because it's fascinating, right? Where CNN deliberately changed the colors of Joe Rogan's face to make him look sick when he was taking ivermectin. They continuously called it horse dewormer over and over and over again, day after day. I think Joe should have lobbed a massive lawsuit against CNN. That's the only way these people learn, right? They need to get hurt in their pocket. By the way, if you're still here, please smash the subscribe button. It really helps me a lot. Small channel. One little click, hit that subscribe button. But Gupta went on there and just looked like an absolute moron. right? When he was saying that, I mean, essentially like, oh, that children should be getting the COVID-19 vaccine. And Rogan was just like, well, like they were arguing back and forth at this point. Like, what is your evidence? What is your proof? What is the science? What is behind that that statement? You're a scientist. You're a doctor, and you're saying that children should be taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, sell me on it. Where are the studies? Where's the research? What has been done that would show that that would be something that would do less harm than COVID? If you can point to it, then, you know, then we can maybe have common ground. But of course, you can't point to it because that stuff was never done. And that's what I think what Kennedy's trying to get to.
Sanjay, I don't even know where to start. You and I were texting. I will just say, thank goodness you were here.
I think if you were an American watching these last 3 hours, you would be completely confused. You would have been assaulted by misinformation and disinformation. You wouldn't know if COVID vaccines cause more deaths versus COVID itself. You might think antidepressants lead to increased suicides and mass.
Okay, and do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know the answer to that question? You're the doctor. You're the one that's getting paid millions of dollars to contribute on CNN. Do you know the answer to that question? That's what he should be asked. Obviously, he's a contributor, so she's not going to do any follow-up, nor would he ever get into a situation where he has to do a follow-up. But does he know the answer to those questions? Does he know the answer as to how many mass shooters are on SSRIs? Or SRIs, where I think it's SSRIs. How many mass shooters are on antidepressants? How many people died from COVID versus the vaccine? He doesn't know the answer. Do you know why? Because nobody knows the answer. Because there's zero chance, and I can say this with 100% certainty, there's zero chance that nobody died from flu during the pandemic, regular flu. Yet if you look at the numbers, there's no flu deaths during that time. Or they're negligible. They're way, way, way below average. Now, I guess you could say that, well, then those people must die from COVID and then they didn't die from the regular flu. Okay, I guess you could say that. How would you know? Were they all tested? No, they weren't. I know they weren't. I just know. Not everybody that died got tested for COVID-19. That's a fact. A lot of them were just labeled COVID deaths because they showed symptoms. So he doesn't know the answers to the questions that he's saying we should all know the answers to. So I just find that pretty rich.
Shootings, people called each other liar over and over again. I mean, a term that we would hear very sporadically. It was used so many times today. It was just very hard to piece together. I think one thing I think is important is that there's constantly been this tension, Dana, between the Make America Healthy Again movement, which I think a lot of people agree with fundamentally because we're not a very healthy country. But
why are we not a healthy country? Why? Why are we not a healthy country? We have all the resources. We're the wealthiest country in the world. We have everything at our disposal. Why are we an unhealthy country? That's the question. He's probably going to skirt around it and just say, oh, diet and exercise or whatever. No, that's bullshit. We're being poisoned. By what? I don't fucking know. But I would like somebody to try to get to the bottom of it. Wouldn't that be nice? I thought that's what we were trying to do. That's what Maha was all about. Yeah, something is effing us up. Can we figure this out? Can we figure it out? Is it the drugs? Is it the food? Because I mean, what else is different in our environment than other countries don't have? What else is so different? I get it. Our kids don't go outside as much, or maybe we don't have enough vitamin D, or exercise, whatever. I thought this was the point of RFK. He's not saying you can't take a vaccine. He's not saying you can't use these drugs or do this or do that. He's saying what we should have done from the fucking beginning. Let's study it. How about that? Randomized controlled trials. That's what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks that these drugs already have that. Everybody thinks that somebody got a placebo, somebody got the drug. They don't know which. And we follow them for a while, see what happens. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. And they don't have any liability. So 30 years from now, when people are dying, or they get cancer, or they get whatever, or anything happens, mistakes happen. We know that mistakes happen. And if everybody wants to be as good-hearted as possible, which they're not, but let's say they are. Take it for what it's worth. Let's say everybody is on the up and up and everyone wants to be the angels. Mistakes still happen, and companies need to be held liable for those mistakes, and they can't be. So once you know you can't be held liable for something, what's the incentive there? The incentive is just keep pumping this shit out. Let's get more of it. More and more and more and more and more. Because there's no accountability. There's zero accountability. That's what this is supposed to be. This is supposed to be accountability. And these people are just, they're just going to shit all over him because he's pushing a view that they can't go for because they're bought and paid for by pharma. I guarantee you, if I was watching this on the network, there would have been 10 ads already for a drug on this channel.
But it is so entangled with this discussion around vaccines. And I think anytime, Secretary Kennedy was sort of asked about vaccines, he would sort of rely on this idea that we're not a very healthy country. Those are two distinct things. I was very confused by many of these things. And I think one thing I agree with Secretary Kennedy on, I don't think a lot of times they were looking for answers for him on specific questions. One of the big ones was, what was the real value of Operation Warp Speed? What did that really do? President Trump, others have said this was one of the greatest scientific achievements. Senator Cassidy said President Trump should be nominated for a Nobel Prize. Let me just show you something really quick, because I think when it comes to data, people say, look,
I think that was actually the one misstep. I know that's his boss, so he kind of has to say that Warp Speed was just peachy and fantastic. But let's be real, it wasn't great, right? I mean, if you're watching this, if you're consuming this, then you may be of the mindset that that all that stuff wasn't so great. His boss isn't going to let him say that. That's just those are the facts. I don't believe Kennedy believes that Warp Speed was fantastic. He has to say that because it's his boss. I wish he didn't have to say that, and he could have, at the very least, played it a little bit closer, because he in the hearing, they kind of catch him out there, right? He basically says these vaccines are harming people, or we want to find out if they're harming people, and they may be harming people. And then on the other hand, he says Warp Speed was one of the best achievements of the 21st century, or whatever, however he phrased it. Really hard to square that, right? That was the one thing where I feel like they kind of got him, but that's because his balls are being held by Trump in that aspect, right? He can't turn around and say Trump has never been able to get to over the hump to say that wasn't great, right? To rush this stuff through and then force it down everyone's throats. So that's the one thing that he kind of teetered on a bit, in my opinion.
We don't trust the corporations to give us data. We don't trust the government to give us data. And we run into this as reporters all the time. I don't know if we have this data from the Commonwealth Fund. A lot of times we search for data from other organizations that are not taking funding from private or governmental organizations. If we don't have it, I can sort of tell you the numbers here. But basically, so between December 2020 and November 2022, what did the vaccinations do in the United States? Prevented 18.5 million hospitalizations and avoided 3.2 million deaths.
How do you get to those numbers? I mean, what are the parameters that lead you to believe those numbers? Like, how do you like, what is that? Like, it's kind of like, you know what I equate that to? It's like polling, right? It's like the 2016 polls that said Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in to win, right? They take a poll, they kind of figure it out, they extrapolate with a small little bit of data, and they go from there. Those numbers are absolute bullshit. I don't even know how they got to them. I don't need to know how they got to them. They're just absolute dog shit. You know what's funny? They can't prove me wrong for my opinion, because that's exactly what they did. They probably got a little bit of data, they extrapolated to the umpth degree, and they came up with those, fucking numbers. It's just, people just get whatever numbers they want now.
I put this up, Dana, because, again, trying to cut through some of the clutter here, everyone's going to keep saying, well, Pfizer's presenting that data, I don't trust that. CDC's presenting that data, I don't trust it. So who are you going to trust? Who are you going to trust? And I think that's fundamentally what this is going to be about.
You're going to trust the people that are not making money hand over fist with the vaccine. How can you trust Pfizer's data? What are they going to do? They're going to come out and say, yeah, you know what? We wanted to make $10 gajillion, but here's the data, take that. You're not going to want this thing now. So, we were all going to, have our own yachts and shit like that. But Instead, we're just going to rent boats from now on. We're going to charter. Is that what they're going to do? Is that what Pfizer's going to do? And then CDC, from my understanding, I think their R&D is 70% funded from pharma. So the agency that is supposed to be regulating the regulatory body is getting money from the people it's supposed to be regulating. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? So the CDC comes out and they say that they recommend vaccinations and stuff like that for children and babies and all that good stuff. And we started with 4 vaccines back in the 60s, and now we're up to 74 vaccines. So everything's on the up and up. Everything's on the up and up. They're just printing their own money, and nobody gives a shit. And these guys are all bought and paid for. So obviously they're not going to go up against it, because I guarantee you right after this segment is going to be an ad from pharma.
The next, who knows how long, Dana.
Yeah, and even again, if you had to really listen for it, even at one point, Secretary Kennedy admitted to Bernie Sanders, I have no idea how many lives were saved by the COVID vaccine, but quite a few. I just quickly we played a lot of Democrats. There are Republicans who are doctors, and even some who are not doctors, who were trying to get answers from Secretary Kennedy, particularly Bill Cassidy, who is not just a doctor, he is the doctor who voted yes, and he allowed RFK Jr. effectively with his vote to become HHS Secretary. Listen to this.
Do you agree with me that the president deserves a Nobel Prize for Operation Warp Speed?
Yeah, absolutely, Senator. That was phenomenal.
Let me ask you, but you just told Senator Bennett that the COVID vaccine killed more people than COVID.
Wait,
that was a statement.
I did not say that.
I would say effectively we're denying people vaccine.
Senator Cantwell.
You're wrong.
So I want you to weigh in quickly, but that last point, Senator Cassidy saying, you're effectively denying people vaccines, that was a theme throughout this, which he denied. But you say it, Sanjay. I mean, my impression, I've had some people here on the set who say they can't get vaccines for their little kids because of the confusion of what HHS is saying.
There are many states, including D.C., where it is very hard, if not impossible, to get a COVID vaccine right now. And that is because pharmacists are relying on the advisory committee to...
Who is getting a COVID vaccine right now? Who? Who's doing this? I don't understand it. It has to be somebody that is just completely devoid of information. I mean, even the lefties that are, somewhat informed. Even if you're reading the New York Times, you're probably like, maybe take a break from COVID vaccine for. You've been getting this shit for 6 years. How many boosters are you up to? 12, 15? The technology was invented well, not invented, but the technology was developed in the blink of an eye. So think about it. The initial people that got the COVID vaccine, it's now 5 years removed. So you're part of the case study. So, I guess thank you for using your body as a guinea pig. Nice of you. But I just don't know, how are we still saying that, children should be at the front of the line for getting this thing? How is that still a thing? I still know, I know people, pregnant women are still getting it. Babies are still getting it. Guys, this thing is 5 years old. We don't have a freaking clue what the hell this thing is doing. We don't have a clue. Can we just pump the brakes on it? Let the elderly people that are going to be most affected, let them get it. Had a good run anyway, right? I don't understand it. I don't understand how other people. I mean, you can kind of see it, right? Because there's still people out there wearing masks. So there's that.
To make these recommendations. The advisory committee, as you know, is dismantled, and then we're going to see if there's even a meeting sometime later this month. But right now, pharmacists are sort of bound in many states to what those ACIP recommendations are. Could you go to a doctor? Could you pay for it yourself? Could you get it off label? Perhaps. But as was pointed out several times today, it is far harder today than it was even a month ago or certainly a year ago to get the shot if you want it. And that really goes for anybody in the country, at least in these states. And it's a patchwork, so it's really challenging and very confusing, far more confusing than it needs to be. We know the specifics that he said. It's no.
Yeah. How is that controversial? Pregnant people or healthy children, and then they're having an issue with ends emergency use authorization. I mean, how is that like? This is a controversial thing. So we're still in emergency use, right? Those drugs still have like carte blanche, like nothing can go wrong with them, and if it does, then you're screwed. Like how is that still anything but absolute common sense? I mean, absolute common sense. You could take an absolute moron, explain to them the COVID situation. We're 5, almost 6 years out of this thing, but we're still in an emergency, and we're still recommending this thing that had whatever 0.0 whatever death rate, and we're still recommending it to children that you could look in European countries. They basically said it's virtually zero. If you're a healthy child, I mean, you're looking at zero. Not statistically zero, I mean zero. And you're giving them an experimental vaccine because it is experimental. I don't know. I don't give a shit what anybody's talking about. The thing is 5 years old. It's experimental. And you're trying to tell me that this is like a big deal?
No longer recommended for pregnant people or healthy children. Pregnant people, by the way, are often they're at increased risk. Any end of the EUA as well.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking about mandates. We're talking about availability. Two very, very different things.
Yeah, I'm an AI, but I'm here to
pregnant people, and I mean, it's insane. Like that's actually insane, man. You know, you're talking about pregnant people and children, and this is supposed to be like a major talking point. Guys, thanks a lot for joining me here. Please hit the subscribe button. It does me a lot of good. If you can watch the 3 hours of Kennedy. It is a rough go, man. I mean, he was battling. But we'll see you again on the next one. If you can, follow me on the X, 6283 Talk on the X. I'm John Soto, and I'll see you again on the next video. Take care, guys.